Okay, we're live. Amazing. Welcome to Sundays and Connection Codes and our LinkedIn Live on strengthening relationships through emotions. I am so excited to be here with Tira Wages. I met her earlier this year at the Mom 2 conference, which I think was close to home for you. She was one of the first people I met as a brand new person at this conference, and I was so excited because she's so friendly and also works in a really relevant space to us, helping people understand and process their emotions. So I'll tell you a little bit about Tira and then get into it. She is a mom of four, a podcast host, and CEO of the Connection Codes. She's passionate about helping others regulate their emotions through simple, practical tools. And through her work, she helps people turn emotions into strengths, leading to more meaningful connections and success, which I know we all need across our families and our work and everything we do. So thank you so much for being here, Tira.
Yes, thank you so much. I am excited to be here. And honestly, seeing you in that room at Mom 2.0, talk about emotions, like when you're just wandering the room and everyone's talking to everyone and you don't know how to get in. And I was like, ooh, I like your sweater. Like I like your outfit. Like that's
Yeah.
always my in at a conference. So yes, I was glad to meet you too.
Amazing. Yeah, it's so nice to find just like one friendly person. I mean, that was actually the most friendly conference I've ever been to. So I recommend it to everyone. But finding your first person is really special. So thanks for being that person.
Yes, thank you.
Well, I would love to get a little bit into your background, who you are, and what Connection Codes is.
Yes, absolutely. So I am Tira Wages, and my background is truly working with my husband full time for the first 14 years of our marriage. We were, and he still is, a content creator. We created videos and courses for some of the top thought leaders. So Amy Porterfield, Michael Hyatt, Marie Forleo. We have helped them with all of their video production and content. And so we've been in the room with some really brilliant, amazing, powerful people in the entrepreneurial space. And in 2020, the world shut down, and one of our previous clients reached out, said, hey, I'm hosting this Zoom workshop. Would y'all want to just join in? It's like $25. You can listen to this marriage therapist share what they do. And we were like, well, we don't have anything better to do, so might as well join in. And sitting and listening to our founders of the Connection Codes, Dr. Glenn and Phyllis Hill, share their tools for emotional regulation and connection in your marriage and with your children and with yourself, transformed everything that I thought that I knew about connection. And it was so tangible and useful. And so when I sat there and listened to them talk for the first time, it's like, I'm going to work with these people. Like, I want to help them because they're therapists. They're not in the business world and creating courses. I was like, everyone needs these tools. So I slowly worked my way in and created some free videos for them. And 2 years ago, they named me CEO. And now I am helping take this to the world and share what these tools can do.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm so excited to get more into them and so impressed by what you and your husband have built too, in terms of creating really wonderful content for so many people. Was there something about meeting the Connection Codes founders and kind of like where you were in your personal life that made it especially interesting to you?
Yeah, that's a good question. So again, working with your husband full time, anyone that does that, that there's a lot of sharp edges that can easily happen. And my husband and I were best friends. He genuinely is my favorite human. But we had come out of a really tough season. We had been to therapy trying to reclaim our marriage, because being married and having 4 young kids, it's hard. So we'd already done the therapy thing, and then learning these tools, it was so applicable to just our day to day. And so what I've told people is that therapy saved my marriage. These tools have kept me out of therapy. And so meeting them, it was just such this aha moment of, oh my gosh, we don't have to make this so complicated. And I am overwhelming Wes with so many words every day, he can't even hear the point that I'm trying to make. And I'm in pain because he doesn't even know what to say. I'm just like, what are you thinking? Like if he comes in the door after work and I can sense his energy is off, it's like, well, how was your day? It was fine. There was no this real connection. And so the first time we used their tools, we were like, oh my gosh, this helps me calm down and just get out to the point what I need to say. And it gives him a script of what to say. And so, yeah, it was definitely one of the biggest aha moments in my life, was sharing this with my husband for the first time.
Yeah, that's so powerful. And yeah, as you mentioned, it's a lot having young kids. And especially, I'm so impressed that you were working with your husband the whole time as well. I love my husband. I want to support him in everything, but there's no way we could work together. I'm like, I like having my little space where I'm like, okay, I'm going to my work now.
Yes, I get that.
And yeah, there's so much that goes into that. And I think that when we talk to a lot of families about like how we can help them kind of hand off a lot of the things that they're doing at home that aren't super valuable to them. But I think underneath that, it's really useful when they have a strong foundation of being able to communicate and having things that they have ownership over, and also having, I think, systems for how they can evolve over time. Because as a parent, I think your life is changing every day and every phase as your kids grow. And so I think being able to communicate is so important there.
Yes, yes. Well, and knowing what to communicate effectively. So I think we have all these logistical things that we need to get done and these tasks that we see on our list. But underneath each of those tasks, there's an emotion. And
Mm-hmm.
it may be fear in doing the task, or shame that it hasn't been done yet, or anger that you have to do it in the first place because someone else didn't already do it. And so when we're thinking about our tasks, not only do we have the logistics of it that is overwhelming us, the emotion of it is also overwhelming us, that just creates absolute chaos in our brain.
Yeah, I love that. Can you dig a little bit more into what role emotions play and how we show up at home and also at work potentially?
Yeah, absolutely. So emotions are firing in our brains all day, every day, which is something that my husband definitely was not aware of before. He would have been like, I have no fear. Like he was a very non-emotional person. And once he started actually tuning into them, he realized that he was actually weighed down by fear all the time. And it was really driving him in not a great way. And so emotions are just continually firing, whether it's, fear of jumping on an LinkedIn Live, or shame that I'm wearing black and black's not really my color, but it's what was easy for me to grab in my closet. There are emotions behind everything we do. And there are moments where all of those emotions can flood our brain. And when emotions flood our brain, we become dumber versions of ourselves. Like that's the easy way to put it. It
Yeah.
literally slows down our cognition. So if that door slammed right now, I would jump and I would become dumber. Like I wouldn't know what is even happening. It would take me a few minutes to recalibrate. But that is happening all day long, every day. And so in our homes, that can look like walking in the morning and you're in a rush because you have a big meeting. Your kid spilled yogurt all over the floor and the cabinets. You have another kid that can't find his shoes, and your daughter is supposed to be the anchor at the school newscast. So you need to be 20 minutes early today. Not saying that was my morning or anything. Oh, and your husband is out of town. That's the other element that I was dealing with today. And
Yeah.
all of those things happening at one time creates like a flood in your brain. And it's easy then to either freeze, we go into our fight, flight, or freeze state. And so if it's yelling at your kids or freezing and kind of shutting down and going into robotic mode, that changes how we are showing up and how we are reacting because of those emotions. But if I can actually tune in to what those emotions are telling me, which we'll get to the message of the emotions I know in a minute, when I can tune in and be like, oh, I'm feeling so lonely in this task. Oh, I need to hire. This is a task I could delegate to someone. I don't need to do this. I need more support. That's the message of lonely. I need more support in this
Mm-hmm.
area, or I'm feeling a lot of fear around something, being able to process that fear. Is the risk worth the benefit? Yeah, it absolutely is. So I'm going to move forward. I'm not going to be held back by this fear. But we often don't even realize what is holding us back because we don't know what fear feels like anymore, or shame or guilt or sad.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you like how you I think something that's really interesting when I think about this is like I did not grow up in a household that was very good at talking about emotions. And so I'm not sure I even have like the right labels for emotions or the right language to give them. And so then sometimes it's hard to move on to that processing step because I'm just like, ah, I'm feeling something. So is that a stage that the people you work with go through?
Yes. 1000%. And you are not alone. This is true for, I would say, most all humans, even the ones that grew up in a home that did talk about emotions.
Mhm.
We are trained from an early age to ignore what we are feeling. And it's from a good place. If my son falls on the sidewalk and his knee is busted and it's bleeding all down, my instinct is to run over to him and say, "You're okay. It's okay." And in his brain, he is thinking hurt is firing. No, I am hurt. Like this hurts. But I'm telling him and reassuring him that it's okay. I'm doing that from a good intention. But I am subconsciously telling him, or not subconsciously, I am inadvertently telling him to ignore what his brain is telling him. And so then he is taught over time to ignore the feeling of hurt.
Mhm.
We are taught these things consistently. We also confuse behaviors with emotions. So for anger, for instance, when we think of anger, we think of someone yelling or, throwing a chair across the room, throwing their phone, just kind of, it's an outward expression, but that is actually a behavior. The emotion of anger is telling us to power up, it's to take action, it's to move us to change. And so it really is this like relearning of what the emotions feel like in your body, which is what our 4-minute tool teaches you how to do. It's to get reacquainted with what they feel like. So then when they hit at 3 p.m. on a Tuesday, you actually know, oh, that's guilt that I'm feeling. Oh, okay. I just need to process that. I need to say it out loud. And then I
Mhm.
can.
I love that. What happens when we leave our emotions unprocessed?
Yeah. When we leave our emotions unprocessed, they can destroy our systems. There are lots of health side effects that happen when we leave our emotions unprocessed. I've read the statistic and I'm scared I'm going to say it incorrectly. I think 80% of all autoimmune disease is experienced by women. Women have gotten really good at absorbing our emotions, and it creates a lot of autoimmune disorder. I have a client who was experiencing hives, and she went to her doctor and they were like, this is stress. Like this is I can't give you anything for this. It's all caused by stress. And so learning how to process her emotions helped her to quiet the stress in her life, to actually put things back in order in her brain so she can show up with less stress. Lack of sleep, definitely miscommunication in your partnerships. So my husband, if he, again, I gave the example earlier, he walks in the door and I can sense his energy is off. I used to would just assume, oh, he's mad at me about something. He's mad because dinner's not done yet. He's probably not even thinking about that. He's thinking about an email that came in earlier in the day, or, something totally unrelated. But because I can't tune in to myself, or he couldn't tune in those unprocessed emotions, now we are battling each other because we don't know how to identify what we're experiencing and communicate it.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And I relate. I don't think I told you this before, but I relate really strongly to this hives thing. I actually have had chronic hives for a long time, which I don't really know what the overall cause is. But earlier this year, I was super stressed and I had terrible hives. And I was like, okay, this is actually my body. Normally they're like totally controlled, but I was like, my body is telling me like something is wrong with like how I am mentally handling all these things that are going on. And it's interesting how you can kind of try to push yourself to power through and then your body's like, no, this is not working, we need to do something different.
Yes. Yeah. Our bodies keep the score and they try to send us warning signals. I've worked with people that experience lockjaw, migraines. I mean, lots of physical ailments can come just from the tension inside of our body. And so, yeah, you are not alone. I was experiencing at one point before doing this work, night sweats and, not sleeping very well, and being able to actually get this out of your system and co-regulate with someone absolutely can help set you up for success.
I love that. Okay, I guess maybe you can tell me more about what emotional processing looks like and what does co-regulating mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So, emotional processing is simply being able to access the emotion that you're experiencing, identifying it. So, knowing which emotion it is, because that is part of it. If I, think previously, if I wanted the dishes done and they weren't done and I asked, I'd be like, I would think I'm sad because the dishes weren't done. When in reality, for me, it was actually probably loneliness that I was experiencing. But if I'm only treating the sad and not getting to the loneliness, my need is not going to be met. And so the emotions are all sending us all a message, and underneath that message is a need. And so what is that need that we need to access and actually like tune into to solve the problem? And so then the co-regulating part is saying it out loud with a safe person. And so for
Okay.
me, it is my husband. For, some people it could be their best friend or their mom, but the key word there is safe person. In that person, we teach how to hold space. And so holding space is simply it's an audible response, but not words. So we call it the ooh at the connection codes, which everybody's like, that's so awkward, but that's what our founders, it's the ooh, but it's simply just like, okay, yeah. It's being able to let the other person know that they are seen and heard without fixing, defending, or diminishing their experience. For example, last week I was on the phone with someone and I was trying to co-regulate with them and share what I was experiencing, and they kept coming back at me. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't anymore. I have to get off the phone with you.
Yeah.
Because it was actually reactivating all of the pain that I was in. And
Hmm.
once I learned how to be safe for my husband, oh, it changed everything. I used to be so defensive. I could defend myself. I don't know why I was not a lawyer. I could defend anything. And now he can tell me when I've hurt him, and I know how to hold space for that hurt. And we can move through it so much faster than we did previously.
Yeah, I think that's so powerful. I feel like that's actually a great lesson for me personally. I'm always like, what is the right way to react to this? And then I try to be like a problem solver. And a lot of times, for example, my sister will call me and just like I'll sometimes try to solve her problems and she's like, that's not what I was calling you for. Like I just wanted to kind of like release this. And so I'm gonna use the ooh all the
Yeah.
time. That's my
Yeah.
new favorite.
Yes. Like we just need to be heard, because oftentimes I already know the solution. I know what I need to do. I just need to get it out of my body and work my way to the solution.
Yeah.
But when my husband or someone tries to step in and fix it or tell me how to act or how to be, it's like, whew, nope, this isn't aligning with what I'm needing right now. It's actually just reactivating the pain.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. What do you do in the case where maybe your partner or the person you're trying to communicate with isn't ready or able to kind of make space or accept the emotions you're feeling?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And um, what we suggest is modeling it first. And so showing them by being safe for them. Safety breeds vulnerability, and then vulnerability breeds safety. And so when you can become a safe person for them, it helps them become more vulnerable with you, and it starts this really great cycle. The other step would be to try our tool. And because with the tool, a part of the rules, which we'll go over here in a minute, is telling the other person to not talk. Like when someone is sharing, the other person is not allowed to say anything. They can't ask questions. It is just to let that person regulate. And ultimately, I do try to be aware. especially doing this work, that I know that there are partnerships where that person is not safe. And so you processing these emotions for yourself and finding someone who will be safe for you. I never want to encourage someone to go into this work with someone that they cannot and will not be safe for them.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, well, maybe we can jump into the tool you wanted to share and what actually doing the work looks like.
Yes, absolutely. So our founders, Dr. Glenn and Phyllis, created the core emotion wheel. And I'm going to share my screen so you can actually see this wheel. We have this where you can download it for anyone that also would want to try it out for themselves. Don't share these tips again. Sorry, sharing the screen for the first time. All right, fear that you're going to see my entire window if that's going to be too many tabs. Okay, here we go.
Let me add to stage. There we go.
Okay, great. So this is the core emotion wheel that Dr. Glenn and Phyllis created, and it has the 8 core emotions on it. And each of those emotions has a message that it is trying to send us with a need underneath the message. And so when we are trying to relearn what these emotions feel like in our body, my husband and I, we would go through this every single day because I needed to learn what lonely felt like in my body. That was one that I was not acquainted with anymore. And shame. I felt shame all the time. Shame has held me back from so many things. But now that I can identify what the shame is, I can process it and continue to move forward. And so when you're beginning this practice, you say each emotion and a recent time you felt that emotion. If you can't think of a recent time, you think of a big time that you felt it. And if you can't think of a big time, you can make something up. So my now 9-year-old son, when he started doing this with me, he would get to lonely and he would say, I was on an island all by myself. He has never been on an island all by himself. But I would just say, ooh, yeah, that would be lonely. Like I would just ooh him through that loneliness.
Yeah.
Now when he does it, we actually did it last night, and I came down and told my husband he nailed every single emotion using a different point in the day. I was blown away how in tune he was with each time he had felt that emotion and how empathetic he was. Some of them were, it was my husband's birthday, and that he felt sad that it was raining for, his dad's birthday. Like he was thinking about how other people could even be feeling. And so doing this, the best illustration that I have actually comes from the movie Inside Out 2, which if you've not seen it, I cannot recommend that movie enough. I am absolutely obsessed. Because watching it, I was like, this is what I do for a living. What happened was they put the core emotions inside the glass jar and shoved those core emotions to the back of the brain. And when that happened, anxiety took over the console and things became very chaotic for the main character. But once we could actually get those core emotions back out from the back of the brain and put them in control of our console, anxiety got to sit down.
Yeah.
And so being able to be in touch with these emotions, it actually helps you to stay regulated and in touch and helps those complex emotions like anxiety to calm down.
I love that. That's so valuable. One thing that stood out to me is that there's only one really positive emotion on here. Yes. Can you tell us more about that?
Yes. So again, the emotions, they all have a message. And so emotions are not good or bad. They just are. Something that we have found that joy, while it is the one that we all want, it is the one that we try to go to every day. It can lead to really detrimental behaviors. Joy is the reason I lay in my bed in the morning instead of getting up to like get my workout in because I love my bed. It brings me so much joy. It is the reason that, oh my goodness, my husband, he knew I was sad this last week. And so he bought 100 Otis Spunkmeyer
I saw this on Instagram.
and joy is the reason like I will not stop putting those cookie doughs in my mouth right now. So I have to really be in tune and not let joy be my main driver. And we are experiencing pain. We are experiencing, which pain is the hurt, sad, and lonely region of our brain. Being able to be in tune with those and process those out so we're not living in them actually brings us to joy more often and faster. Motherhood, I really lost touch with joy. I had a really hard time finding my joy again because I was drowning in shame and lonely and fear. But processing each of those each day and getting them out faster actually sent me to joy. So again, the messages, I'll just go through them very quickly and actually have them even written down. Oh, I thought they're written down somewhere on this PDF. Nope, they're on a different PDF. The messages are anger helps us to power up. Anger moves us into action. So the greatest movements of the world all stem from this like core level anger of something needs to change. Shame and guilt, they are the ones that help us show up as better versions of ourselves the next day. So shame is an I am statement, and guilt is over an action that we have done. So they help us to show up better. Fear is our protector. Fear is what keeps me from spending all of our money on luxury handbags. I need fear in my life because it helps me keep my home and helps keep me and my children alive. Lonely is the message of I need support. Lonely is actually, it is harmful in the fact of if you are living with chronic loneliness, studies show it is as bad as smoking a pack of cigarettes every day. But when you can actually get in touch with that loneliness and get the support that your body is needing, that is a positive. Like loneliness actually can help so much in creating positive change in our life. Sad is that something is missing or damaged. So if I'm really tired, my body feels that as sad because I am missing sleep. And then hurt is a message of I need to move away from this. This is not safe for me. I need to move away. And so when we can actually recognize that hurt, it can help people get out of really painful relationships and can help motivate us and show us where we need to be and what we don't need to be involved in. So being in touch with each of those emotions actually helps the full body system to show up as we need to show up and change the world to make it a better place, but also to fulfill our needs inside of our own body.
I love that. I think I'm going to start practicing this on a regular basis. Can you give us the 20-second, like, how do you use this in your everyday life tip?
Yes. Yep. And so go through each emotion, the recent time that you felt that. And I do it with my kids at night. Usually that's when they are kind of in a more vulnerable space. My husband and I are at the point now where we do it throughout our day. We use the words. So if he feels hurt by me, he knows pretty immediately because he knows what hurt feels like now. It no longer just feels like tension in his body. And he can say, ooh, Tyra, you said that and it hurt me. And he can just say it out loud. Or if we find ourselves getting stuck, if there's a topic that's really hard for us, we can't get to the solution of it. Last week was a highly emotional week for everyone in the United States with the election. So we sit down and we do a full wheel just based on the tension that we are experiencing around that specific issue. So that's an issue specific wheel.
I love that. That's so valuable. Yeah, I'm so excited to get started with this. It's not something I have really literally ever practiced in my whole life. And I'm sure that's true for many other people out there too. So I think this is such a great entry into how to process your emotions.
Yeah. I always love seeing people do it for the first time because they often surprise themselves by what they say. Or like when I did it with Wes for the first time, that's when I knew this was different because his sad, we'd been together 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I had no idea he was experiencing that. So it's often even surprising what you're experiencing.
Yeah, I love that. I And what after, so after, like, what are the stages of getting really great at emotional processing? So maybe you start with this every day. And then now, how do I get to like your advanced stage, Tira,
Yeah, I
of being
love
really great at it?
So I would say that one, you start by doing this because again, we want to get those core emotions out of the back of your brain and get them back in control of your console. So once you get really good at that, you can start even deciphering like where do these messages come from? And so for
Yeah.
me, a lot of my shame, like especially my shame around motherhood, if I'm in the grocery store and my kids are being loud and I'm now getting mad at them because I'm experiencing shame. Where did that message come from? Okay, that was society standards or how I was raised, how my parents spoke to me. And I can now start to heal those parts of my brain. And I say, like, I speak truth to it of like, no, my kids are being kids. Like, I can reframe situations now because I can identify what I'm actually experiencing and not just the tension. So I would say that's step 2 is even the thought processes. What thoughts do you
Yeah.
have around these moments? And what can you change up and getting to that need even. And so sometimes the need is to change the thought pattern or change the circumstance, get out of the job that's destroying your body, get the help around your home that you need, or actually change your thought around it. So that's the next level. And then also using it to actually connect. My husband and I do not experience conflict anymore. We definitely have moments that feel like tension. Last week, there was a moment that was like, ooh, this is like almost tension. Like, what's going to happen? And we use this tool, and within 20 minutes, we were like we weren't even discussing it anymore. Where previously we would spend hours um, angry at each other. We
Yeah.
would have something, and now like, well, we'll see whenever we talk again. We would talk for days because we have kids, but like there was tension for days in my home
Hmm.
around specific topics. And we don't experience that anymore because we just got really good at using these together. And yeah, so we have definitely the free tool that people listening can download, but also we have a coaching program that if someone is like, no, I need this, I need to like accelerate this progress because I can't keep living like this. My business is suffering or my home is suffering. We have a coaching program that helps accelerate people.
Yeah. I love that. And I'm sure the direct feedback is so powerful too. Um,
Yes.
I had a couple more questions just about using this in different contexts.
Yeah.
You mentioned using it with your kids. I know a lot of the people that we talk to, when they start learning things like this for themselves, they really want to teach it to their kids. Do you have suggestions on how to get started with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So for us, we would print it off. It would be on our fridge, so our kids would start seeing it. And again, my kids are younger, and so it is a little easier to implement it, I think, with younger kids versus doing it when they're 16 and you've never introduced something like this
Yeah.
before. So at that stage, I would say start modeling yourself and holding safe space for them when they're sharing things and tuning in, getting curious about them. Curiosity is a huge part of what we teach is how to get curious with yourself and get curious with others. And then with my kids, I just ask them like, "Hey, would you do this with me?" And I'm always very careful in how I share this with kids because my kids are not my therapist. They are not there to like work through the hurt of being abandoned by my father. Like that's not their job.
Hmm.
I can talk about that with my husband or my friends, but with my kids, I always keep things at a level that they can understand. So I keep it very age appropriate, which takes some intentionality on the parent's part. But I will say, actually knowing what my kids are experiencing, oh my gosh, like has changed everything. For my daughter to be able yesterday, she was actually having a hard time at school. I checked her out for an hour. We got in the car and she may need to get her adenoids taken out. And I didn't realize like how intense that was feeling for her. And she just processed her fear. She processed the shame of not knowing what the doctor was explaining to her. Like for her to be able to put words to what was happening in her body and for me to know how to stay safe with her instead of being like, it's not that big of a deal. all these other kids do it. You're going to be okay. Well,
Yeah.
connected. Like she and I stayed connected through that. I'm not going to lose my daughter because I'm actually showing up for her in a way that that draws her to me. I'm a safe space for her. So yeah, I hope that answers the question.
I love that. And I think even just the power of the ooh probably as a parent is really important, because I think that's a space where you like always want to have the answers, and it's okay to just not have the answers and just let people process things there too.
I will say it is extra hard though with that. Like especially with your kids, because you can see the bigger picture. Like there are not monsters underneath their bed. But one of the things that I tell my clients is connection over everything. Connection over everything. The most important thing to me at the end of the day, one, obviously that I raise my kids to be independent, kind people, but that they are connected to me. I don't want to lose that for the sake of always correcting them, or putting them in their place.
That makes sense. Okay, my last question on this topic is just I think another place where this feels like it would be really powerful, but maybe harder, is at work, because I think that in a work context, we're obviously having so many emotions. We're there 8 or more hours a day a lot of times, but it doesn't always feel like emotions are kind of welcome at work. And then especially for working parents where they're maybe processing things at home and at work, I feel like this would be a really powerful way for employers to connect with their employees. So do you have any thoughts about the best way to use it there?
Yeah, that's a great question. One of the things I think about initially is just even using it for yourself. We talk a lot about how our workday affects our home life. I've even mentioned that in one of the examples I gave, but we don't talk about how our home life is affecting our work. And so oftentimes when we're sitting at our desk and we're dysregulated, it's because we dropped our kid off at daycare and they're crying and we feel like a horrible mom for doing that, or we got into a fight with our spouse, or things are happening in the world that are really too intense for us to carry, and so we often are dysregulated at work due to outside things happening. So in that instance, I tell people, like, start your day, like your work day, even by journaling these out or texting them. Text your partner, your husband, and get it out of your body to clear your limbic system for yourself. And then also, I recommend to try to use this language with your team, especially if you're leading a team. If I tell my assistant, you did a really crappy job on, like, why have you not gotten this to me yet? Versus, I'm feeling some fear that we're not going to meet this deadline. The way that connects with her, now we can partner with each other instead of being against each other. And I have found that leading a team from a place of partnership versus adversity, like, is absolutely key. So when we can start a sentence using one of these core emotions, even like, I feel guilt that I didn't meet this deadline, it helps clear my system out, but also it clues other people in for what's happening for me. So I just say use this verbiage for yourself as often as possible. I would love to get this in HRs, around the world, because the HR person, like, that's people ops. They're the same person. So you can go to them and really get this tool where people are experiencing a lot. And if we want our workplace to be a healthy space for our teams to thrive, we need to give them the tools to do that.
I love that. Okay, well, I have learned so much, Tira. Thank you. And I'm really excited to get my husband on board with trying this out. I actually think he'll love it. And yeah, where can we find more about you and about Connection Codes for anyone who's interested?
Yes. So we are at connectioncodes.co is the main website. But if you /Sundays, then you can actually download the wheel for yourself and try it out for yourself. Take it to your husband, your kids. And we're Connection Codes. We have a podcast. That's what I should also promote. We have a podcast where we talk a lot about emotional regulation. The podcast that was released today, November 12th, is one that actually it's a great place to start, actually, because we dissect each emotion and get down to the emotion is trying to tell us. And I have, as a guest, our founder's daughter on to talk about that.
I absolutely love that. I will be listening later today. And we will share the link that Tira just mentioned in the LinkedIn comments too. So anybody can find it through there.
Yes. Awesome. Yeah.
Amazing.
Thank you
Thank you
so
so much.
much. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. This was amazing. I'm so glad that the world brought us together. And I can't wait till the next time too.
Yes. Yes. Totally agree. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Tira. Bye.